This is Alex Jones saying they were turning the frogs gay. And this actually is the case. He was correct.
People like to argue points based off data points that tend to suit their narrative.
The poison's in the dose, right? Like most things. The seed oil ratio. I had these arguments with the people last year about protein, and everyone's saying protein being fucking dangerous for you. Yeah, if you're 80% of your protein comes from Ginsters or the frozen bacon that you get in Iceland, the shop.
I've not seen testosterone numbers worse than when I moved to Hong Kong.
51 cans a day or something like that. Then we're starting to see the negative effects of sweeteners.
When Lane goes, this is bullshit. Here are the randomized control trials. You are saying that that person's life experience, and this, when you say experience, like is invalid. So, Rob, to open up for today, we're going to be talking about liver. We're going to be talking about toxicity. Is this plastic water bottle going to kill me?
That one won't, but this one might.
Okay.
Joe, probably not. I think in the spectrum of things that will kill you, this could definitely make your life tougher. This could accelerate certain conditions or disruptions to your system, without a doubt. But there's also, it's one of those things where there's a crap ton of fear mongering going on as well that might actually overplay the damage that these are doing to our systems. But you're a healthy, fit individual. You train, you sweat, you eat right, you sleep right, you limit your stress within reason.
I think the sleep.
Sleep
was
mate,
all
none
I
of us
was
sleep.
Like,
Right.
no, mate, not at all.
None of us sleep right, bruv. So in terms of this doing damage to systems, obviously less chance of that happening to you than there is to a less healthy, fit, a more sedentary, overweight individual where there's already hormone disruptions and things like that going on anyway.
Yeah, and like that, you hit the key nail on the head there. That some people will like. There's a lot of fear mongering going on. I think fear mongering is an interesting thing when we have these discussions because there is a middle ground here. People like to argue points based off data points that tend to suit their narrative. Like you'll go to a seminar and everyone say it's all about the gut and everyone's all about processed food. It's all about the brain. It's all about the adrenals, or it's all about blood sugar. It's all about carbs. And I'm like, well, we either have people that go so far down the wormhole and fearmonger, or we have the other people who like go, no, that's bullshit. I'm like, well, there's normally a grain of truth in everything. Otherwise, these things wouldn't be there. I'm going to take an example here, which is slightly off topic, but it sort of comes into this in the topic of seed oils. So we have your Saladinos of the world and people like this are going that seed oils are bullshit, to use Paul's term. And then you have people going, well, look, if we look at the clinical control trials, let's do my best Lane Norton impression, we'll say that in humans, seed oils are harmful. Okay. But who are we testing here? Like, in as you just said, in a healthy individual, metabolically flexible individual eats a wide variety of foods, minimally processed foods, eats some fish, maybe supplements of the fish oil, then seed oils will do no harm whatsoever. In fact, there are benefits of seed oils. I will absolutely agree with that. But we are living in a world that is 60 to 70% in the West processed food. And a situation where, like absolute fact, the Western world are getting about 25 omega-6s to omega-3s. I don't think the problem is, are seed oils bad? It's the fact that we've now gone so off the Richter scale of these seed oils that we probably should be leaning towards the Paul Saladino approach of removing them from our diet where possible. Because, and this comes back to the toxicity thing, because it's pretty much impossible to remove them all. So we can remove what is conscious to us, we will have a better chance of overall thriving, longevity, health, whatever the buzzword is these days.
The poison's in the dose, right? Like most things. The seed oil ratio. I had these arguments with the people last year about protein, and everyone's saying protein being fucking dangerous for you. Yeah, if you're 80% of your protein comes from Ginsters or the frozen bacon that you get in Iceland, the shop, not the country, obviously. the shitty processed proteins.
Super healthy.
Like, of course, then that protein's not going to be the best source for your body to do what it needs. But poison's in the dose with the the plastics, the estrogens, the toxins in our environment, all the pollution, I think we're probably at a point now where the dose is starting to get, for want of a better word, poisonous. I'm not saying we're all going to die. I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything, but we are seeing certain ill health effects from this. But it's not blanket across the population. Some of these things can be reversed, one of which in particular that blew my mind that I'll talk about in a bit, which kind of sparked the idea for our conversation today, this bit. Like it's trying to get the control and the balance and the ratio right. If you live in the middle of London, where you're just getting hammered by pollution and probably poor quality water if you're not filtering it, and you're relying on plastics and things like that, then you're getting hit more than the average person who's living out in the countryside. That you know, all the water's in glass and stuff like that, and they've got a filter or a natural spring or something like that, and it's them finding the balance. What can someone do like that? Well, get out of that environment a little bit more, get into the opposite one. I'm not saying take up forest bathing or just walking in nature, as it's actually known, has been for thousands of years, forest bathing. But it's what can you do to reset the balance? What can you do to limit the exposure? And those are the things in your control, right?
And you mentioned a few things to unpack there. I quite like the fact that the forest bathing. It's like I saw a comedian talk about mindfulness the other day. It's like when we because he's like in his 40s, like when I was a kid, we didn't have mindfulness. Like waiting for the bus was mindfulness, you know, like because we didn't have Facebook or
we couldn't be looking at YouTube. Anything.
But
you're looking around at other people, vehicles, trees. Like, yeah, man.
But yeah, you mentioned a few things there to unpack, and I think the dangering and the dose is a very important thing, and like understanding your circumstances, because I was, you know, for people who are new to the show, I spent my last 4 years in Hong Kong. I'm back in the UK now, and I did I paid a functional medicine doctor over there for a few sessions, not about my blood work, but just to learn endocrinology and hormones a little bit deeper. And we started talking about testosterone. And he was like, he's an Australian dude. And he was like, I've not seen testosterone numbers worse than when I moved to Hong Kong. And like, so is there a genetic component to this, that people with Hong Kong and Asians are born with worse testosterone? There could be an argument to that. But there's also a lot of factories and a lot of like is urbanness in Hong Kong that could be affecting this. So it's when we start looking at, I always like bringing this back to the stress cup. People look at toxic load and have like a toxic burden and stress cup as separate things. I agree. But I think if we want to keep it simple, if we look at my coffee cup here, people can't see this if they're listening on audio. We've got a coffee cup in front of me. Of course you do. It's fucking Simon. But if I've got a little bit filled in and I've got most of this empty, which I actually have, in this example here, this is the amount of stress I had, I could have a lot. I could go for more training volume. I could probably handle bigger deficits. I could probably go a little bit more time without sleep. Not that I would want to, but sleep's one of the things that would empty the cup. But there was more room I've got for this. Now, if I live in the countryside and I have my own spring and I filter my water and do all this thing, I've emptied some of this cup so I can handle more of this stuff. Now, if I'm in an urban environment, I'm living in the centre of London, like your example, I may have this cup a third full before I start, which means now it's like your question is there, like, because people like to isolate this stuff going, what's your toxic load? Can we remove that? I'm like, well, if we can't avoid it. Like, well, what is in your control? Because if I look at that cup and I go, I'm already a third full just by where I've chosen to live, I'm not going to tell my client, you need to move, mate, if you want to get in shape. But I also need to be aware of, right, I need to consider training volume. I need to consider recovery. I need to consider health, because these things will make an impact and I just can't let them overflow. And that's sort of the way I look at it. When we lump all this stress on the system together, we can go, well, what are we willing to accept in our lives? And sort of what are we not?
Yeah, of course. What can you actually manage? We talk maybe too much. I don't mean you and me, but we talk maybe too much about stress relief in our industry, like it's so simple as just get 8 hours sleep and do a meditation every day and you'll never be stressed. The issue is there's however many million fucking people on this continent that we're in anyway that cause the stress, that cause most of the stress. Like you can work with stuff, but you can't completely eliminate it. But like we've said before,
I also think, sorry to cut you off, but I also think as well, as the world goes on, I think this not slating journalism, meditation, mindfulness, cold plunges, whatever you Wim Hof, whatever floats your boat. Like, I'm not slating those things. I think it can be important tools, but I think we're getting more and more closer to a world where, like, it's like peeing. I've used this exact analogy of breathing before, but it's like peeing in the ocean trying to make it yellow. Like, we're bombarded. Like, if I open my phone now, in 10 minutes when I go search through my apps, I will hear World War III about 4 times. I'll have bombarded with messages. I'll be thinking about my business, and like, no amount of meditation is going to impact that, right? Like, we spoke about off air about, like, and I'm obviously not going to go into it on the live forum, but things that happened to me that are weighing down on me. Now, I could meditate and journal my way into a better perception of that thing, but that thing still exists. So it's like, well, a lot of coaches I see, I don't think it's bad advice, but they're leaning so heavily into the life coaching stuff, as you said, like, stress is easy. And I'm like, well, there's a lot of stress that's under the hood that we're not even thinking about, which, one, could mean that we're filling our stress cup before we even start opening up our journal or gratitude log. But also, we're in this position where, like, could we have something that's more objective? Like, I do X, it will equal Y. Like, a little bit assertive, or this journaling thing that might even work. It could be a waste of time.
There's some fantastic perceptions on this. Paul Mort, who obviously has been my coach for the last 3 years, maybe 4. A big thing of our thing is it was right here, our Unstoppable Journal. But he refers to this as a planner rather than a journal. We're not opening this up and putting down our thoughts. How did I feel today? Like the Tim Ferriss style, just get junk out of your head onto paper instead. There's questions to answer to try and direct your focus, your attention for the day, for the week, so you're getting the things done that you want to do. That's very different from sitting down and just writing out thoughts, emotions, feelings, writing about the past. Had a great conversation with our friend Barry Pitts the other day, who just can't stand the idea of people journaling because this is so relevant, and agrees with Paul Mort as well. It's constantly thinking, writing, and talking about the past. So you're never moving forward. You're talking about negative feelings a lot because you probably want to get them out of your head onto paper. You're still going through that process. And then what if you're the type of person that then goes back and rereads all this stuff? You read it, you're going to get that sensation, that emotion again. So you're constantly punching yourself in the face, really, every single day.
And what are you going to do about it? Like, because here's the thing. Like, I think sometimes you have to get some of the baggage out of the way. To, like, we've all had that feeling where we've had a weight lifted off our shoulders, and now we feel this wave of confidence that we can do things. So I think there is definitely merit in that, and I'm not slating any of this stuff. If it works for you, you do you. But I think sometimes we spend so much time on this 4-hour. We'll come back on toxicity and what people do with that, but like this 4-hour morning routine, trying to get rid of the past. And as Barry Pitt says, like, well, look, what's really going to be the long lasting? You might feel better in the moment for putting things on a journal, but what is actually going to be the thing that changes? It's going to be doing stuff, right? Again, like the thing that bothered me yesterday, right? I could fixate on that. And like what we spoke about was a past incident, right? Before we came on air. And I could fixate on that and be something like, okay, that's going to hold me back. That's a monkey on my back. Or I can go and be so amazingly successful and work hard that isn't the problem anymore. So like, what's the actual end game here? Because I sometimes don't think, like, as Barry hits it on the head, like in that time you spent doing an hour of journal and meditation and gratitude, you could have got further with your business. You could have gone to the gym. You could have gone on a run. You could have made a step forward to be the person that isn't a problem in their life anymore. Yeah. We are elongating it by shortening our days.
We have to admit that the biggest stress relief method is to get out of the situation that's causing you stress, and then later down the line have a much better situation where you're not thinking about that previous situation anymore. And the problem is meditation, journaling, etc., is a great tool. I'm never going to tell someone not to do those things, but I think there's right ways and less effective ways of doing them. But until the situation changes, and those things can help you change the situation, nothing changes. So it's the same as with ill health, with obesity, with toxic environments that you're in. Like, they could be damaging you. They probably are damaging you. But it's like you can sit there worrying about it, reading the fear-mongering articles. But until you do something, it's the same as when we spoke not so long ago about nature versus nurture. okay, so this is the cards you've been dealt. What are you going to do with that? So you can't change the cards. So what are you going to do with those cards?
And we're going back into the toxicity thing now. I think like it is the biggest thing, right? Like, what's worse, right? Like the toxicity that's coming in from all these items, or you stressing about the toxicity that's coming in from all these items. So there has to be a balance act here. So for people who are like, go like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, what? Like, what is the issue? Why should we be concerned about things like liver and the toxins and the mold in our houses and the water filtering? Like, why is this a problem?
So if you think of any environment you're in, you're being blasted by pollution from outdoors and even pollution from indoors as well. Your water quality probably isn't as good as it used to be. Even things like scented candles are giving off chemicals that can disrupt your endocrine system. There's microplastics from pretty much 90% of stuff in your house. I can see things around me already that I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty bad. Everyone went mad for the Stanley Cup recently, which I thought was a golf thing, not actual drink. Everyone's gone mad for their Stanley Cups, which apparently are giving off lead. Okay. Who cares? Who cares? You've got your Stanley. Cool. But I'm also, let me point out, I'm not the guy. I'm not living in a completely non-toxic home. I'm not doing everything I can. Like, I would love to take everything in glass and eat it rather than microwaving it in plastic. But sometimes I want warm food and I don't want a heavy glass lunchbox in my bag. So I'm going to eat out of microwave plastic. I'm going to drink the greatest drink on this planet, apart from Coke Zero and tequila, out of a plastic bottle. I'm going to drink my Coke Zero out of a plastic bottle, right? I'm not going to do it out of a tin.
Out of a plastic bottle.
Let me think. If I could hide it in that easy. Drink it on the tube with the rest. Like the tube. Oh my God. The amount of crap coming off of the tube's ridiculous. When a car breaks near you, the tires are giving off microplastics. Studies have shown microplastics down the blood. But again, I'm not that guy. I'm not suddenly going to be this climate or environment activist and wear an orange t-shirt and block traffic and make things worse, trying to fix the issue with my noise. I'm very much a realist. What can you do about this? If this is affecting your health, if you're not healthy, if you're not exercising, you're not sweating, you're not eating a decent amount of veg, getting outside and sleeping right, then you're kind of fighting a losing battle in most areas in your life anyway. Those are the things you should be changing first. If you want to be conscious about some of these things, then yeah, let's look a little bit deeper. Let's research. Let's add things into our life and see what happens. The greatest video done on this subject is Youssef.
I was just about to say, have you seen the video from Youssef and Pioneer Fitness? Like,
because the geezer did it. That is for a decent amount of time.
That is unbelievable, and it's a really good write-up of a really good script going over what impact these things have that are non-negotiable. And the thing I always find with this stuff as well, like, because it's a lot of my metabolic mental university course that I'm doing right now, it goes into toxicity, and one of the big pillars is they look at the liver. And for people who don't know why the liver to a degree is important, it's around about 15 to 20% of our metabolism. And when we also think there is stored glucose is there for like fight or flight response. So if I came and jumped up behind you with an axe in the dark, right? That initial glucose allows you to do that comes from the liver. It's that initial source of energy. So there's an element of impacting blood sugar control in here. There's an impact of how that then affects the gut in there. So that has this knock-on effect. So I'm certainly not being that everyone talks about this like functional nutrition as it's this thing where everything's the gut, everything's the blood sugar, and everything's the brain, like I said earlier. And I'm very much an inputs and outputs kind of guy, right? Yeah. The inputs are the cells. The cells are everything. Is a very Brian Walsh way of thinking, but like if we look at the layers of organization, but any coaches that's done precision nutrition, that first page in the old book, it's changed now. They they swap it around, do the coaching bit first now. In the original book, which is sort of over there somewhere, point to the UP book. There we go, PN. So in that, they talk about that, and people just gloss over it. That's layers of organization. But it's so important because we look at healthy cells make healthy organs, like your liver. Healthy organs make healthy organ systems, like your digestive system, right? Healthy organ systems make healthy humans. Like it cells make everything. So you got to think, what do the cells need? And if our cells are unhealthy for whatever reason, then everything else is going to be unhealthy for whatever reason. But also, it's like, whilst you're working on something like that, right? It's like I can put you in therapy to try and work on your brain, and that would take a while. But in the meantime, I start going, let's start eating well, let's start sleeping better, let's start going to the gym. We're going to see now this quick increase in self-worth that goes alongside it. That's what I call functional outputs. And that's like, can we do stuff in this early phases to help someone's liver get rid of all the shit that's already been lingering around? Can we manage that stress cup and work the adrenals, which in turn will help the thyroid? So I think that liver's the only part of this, but it's a part of this that I think it's the most underappreciated part of the system. Everyone talks about thyroid and the gut and blood sugar management and the brain, but no one talks about the liver. And it's 15 to 20% of our metabolism. Do you know what? I think a lot of coaches don't even talk about metabolism. They just have it as a blanket term.
They don't know what it is.
BMR is coma calories, right? And then we ignore it, and then we move on to the rest of the calories. Like, well, that's a good 60, 70% chunk of your TDEE. Could we try and work on improving that? You know, like, it's our biggest impact here, biggest heavy hitter. People ignore it. So I think like the liver is certainly an important thing. Like, what you've researched on this, like I know you have done a little bit. Like, what things are we seeing? Like, because there are people who like. There are massive downside of this. And there's going to be other people that will say, because this is how it works, right? We spoke about tribalism at the start of this with seed oils. There are going to be people going, it wouldn't have passed the FDA having a plastic bottle or whatever. What is the UK equivalent? But whatever the food standards are, it wouldn't pass if it was dangerous. So why are we still seeing issues in humans? And what are the issues in humans?
Just quickly on that, right? I read... When I was doing all my research, I read something by the World Health. So the microplastics being found in the human bloodstream and in fecal matter in babies, which sounds terrifying, right? Because of plastic bottles.
Well, that's the scary thing, right? With this, the toxicity, because it goes intergenerational. So, like, if you're a pregnant mother, this is very direct, but like this is a more important thing for women because I'm not going to transfer my toxins into a baby. But for women, like people now, like I would have some levels of toxins in me that would potentially affect my health before I was born. Now, but today, that could be tenfold. And I don't know the stats on like autism, ADHD. We've seen more of that now, but I don't know how much that's linked to that. I don't want to put a claim on it, but like we are seeing more mental health things. And again, nature versus nurture. Is this circumstantial? Is this the fact that we are more stressed? Is it the fact that no one can focus? But is there an element to this? Maybe. And I think that's what you're getting onto.
Like if the World Health Organization says there's microplastics found, we don't know the full extent of this, that we don't think we don't know the full harm of them yet. That's cannon fodder for conspiracy theorists to go, World Health Organization bought and paid for, they want microplastics in your blood, they want to disrupt your endocrine system, etc. But there's also a case of that we can't, everything the World Health Organization says, even though I have my issues with them, we can't just take that as null and void because we don't like the World Health Organization. There could be some legitimacy in this. Maybe we recycle these things in our system and reprocess them quite well if we're healthy individuals. And it's the unhealthy individuals that have a harder time. But some of the things. So you've got your plastics. You've got.
I know you're going to go into because I thought that's a really, really important thing there as well. Is that when people look at these things, and again, this is my problem with the evidence-based crowd. I'm not saying you don't use evidence, but evidence is often very far behind. Because for us to be absolutely sure of the impact of something on a human, we need to do so many trials in animals, in humans. That takes years. Right. And we also need to fully understand what we're even testing for. So we could be like 20, 30 years behind. So when people again, I'll bring up Brian Johnson, for example, when people criticize what he's doing, right? Like, yes, some of these things aren't being proven on a global scale, but he's proving them on a regular basis, on a weekly basis with himself. Right. So, and how many times, and I'm not just saying about Mr. Johnson, how many times have we spoken about someone on this show that looking back in hindsight, they were ahead of their game? Poliquin, John Meadows in the bodybuilding world, right? Like science is behind. So we, in 20 years time, you might be going, why were we all worried about fucking plastic? But we could also be going, why do we let anyone put anything in plastic? Right. And you can't write out, go, well, research says today that it's harmful. So like, I'm going to buy a 50 pack. use a little bit of common sense and just like question, like, right, let's look at what is actually happening. This is why I can bring up the two people I said earlier on, Lane Norton versus Paul Saladino. This is why I don't like either of their arguments, but I don't dislike either of their arguments either, right? Like, people put Paul as this crackpot. Paul is not a crackpot, right? Paul, and he goes, oh, but he's a psychiatrist. Yeah, but he's very, very, very well researched in this. Does it mean he hasn't got a bias? Of course he has a bias, right?
Yeah.
But he's seen tons and tons of people get better by removing some of these things, right? Now, we can't ignore that because that happened. Fact. But at the same time, they're not in randomized controlled trials. And Paul will also, and as Lane would say, you'll find trials for veganism doing the exact same thing. And you can make an argument that it's calorie deficit that's done this, or whatever else.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't change the fact that some people will improve better by taking some of these things out, removing seed oils, going meat only, whatever else. But at the same time, Lane's going with the research we've got right now, which might change, might be outdated, and might not be fully informed. So it's like we have to, if we're trying to come up with our own conclusions from this, it's like we need to take a bit from the left and a bit from the right. What am I seeing in me and people around me? What am I seeing as trends in people's health? What am I seeing becoming more prevalent in the health industry? And then, is the research backing me up yet? And what's moving faster? And then come to your own conclusions. My personal thing, anyway. So, Karen, you were going into
absolutely. But in terms of things that are, so the microplastics, it's tricky. There's things that have shown that up to a certain level, those things are being lodged in our organs, and they are being attached to the membranes of blood cells, which can affect oxygen delivery and things like that. But that's mainly happening is it in vitro? What's the petri dish? What do they call it when it's in the it's not been shown in the human. It's the human cell, but it's in the petri dish. What do they call it?
I don't know.
Anyway,
But yes,
this is why I'm not the guy.
This oxidative stress have shown in cells that aren't living,
in cells that have been
they're not communicating with other cells.
Yeah, but in terms of what we do know, BPAs, phthalates, things like that are coming off your plastic bottles and in your water and stuff like that, that things have shown in humans a decrease in sperm quality, a decrease in fertility, abnormal development of infants, progression of cancers, endometriosis, which is a big topic at the moment amongst the females. There should be so much more education on that. It's scary that there isn't. You know, in rodents, decrease in sperm quality, lowered steroidogenesis, which is a fantastic word, decrease in normal healthy reproductive eggs. So there's pregnancy dysfunctions. There's all sorts going on in the zebrafish. Because we need to know what's happening in the water, of course. Decrease in sperm quality, decrease in fertility, increased mortality, and these two are my favourite, sex ration change and secondary sexual feminization. This is Alex Jones saying they were turning
the frogs gay.
And this actually is the case. He was correct. He was fucking right.
You know what? I knew that. I knew he was correct, but it still makes me laugh every fucking time.
It's hilarious. Doesn't mean he's right on everything. Some things he said horrifically flipping wrong. But turning the frog gay thing.
This, like, it's a slight tangent, but this is a big gripe I have with the world today. That, like, you can't say, and if you said, oh, do you know what? I've got proof that Alex Jones is right about the frogs being gay, and they go, well, you're saying that Sandy Hook has been faked? I'm like, no. Like, I can't remember. It was the first Andrew Tate and Piers Morgan interview, where Piers Morgan was like, was it Putin or was it someone? And he was like going, would you be nice to Putin? It's like, well, yeah, he's not done anything to me. And he goes, yeah, but he's done this to other people. I'm like, yeah, but he hasn't done anything to me. So you support war? I'm like, no,
dumb.
Like, I've had this again. I've said this a few times. I know it's off topic. We'll get back on it, but like, this is the world. I hate this. Well, I've had it where Andrew Tate's the biggest example. Like, less so now because I think he has gone a bit mental. But like I've had someone go, innocent until proven guilty. So you're saying you're a misogynist? No.
You support rape. You support human trafficking.
I'm like, what? Yeah. So, but we did. I mean, how many things since our 2024 predictions video How I sent you about my prediction of conspiracy theory thought process coming into the fitness industry.
Yeah.
I think there's about 4 or 5. I think 20 minutes after we stopped recording the episode, I sent you something going. Look, first instance, mainstream media.
It's ridiculous.
And like there is truth in everything. Stop saying things are bollocks.
Yeah.
Like make your own mind up. Just the lack of critical thinking these days just drives me round the bend.
That's the thing. There's no. I mean, it's not even critical thinking. I was listening to a great podcast. Doesn't exist anymore. It's called Rebel Wisdom, and it had some fantastic people. Some people that have been on Modern Wisdom as well. This guy Daniel Schmachtenberger, who's just the most incredible brain on this planet, I think. And they call it sense making. So it's not just critical thinking; it's sense making. And I wanted to do something that I can't be asked because no one's going to give a fuck. I wanted to do something about sense making when it comes to your health, your fitness, and the fitness industry. How can you actually take what's being presented to you and think critically enough to recognize the relevance, the truth, the application of it in your own life, the application of it where it might be relevant for other people, not for you. So you don't have to completely discount it. What's relevant in terms of science, what's relevant in terms of human experience. Like obviously they don't just talk about fitness, they're talking about the world at large and existential crisis and war and things like that. So it's a hell of a lot deeper. But it's sense making, not just making sense of something, but understanding the actual. Like you just said, everything's true. Everything's true because you have the option and the will to believe anything that's presented to you that may or may not have an agenda behind it anyway. And this subject's perfect for it.
Yeah. And just before we go back into the subject, I think on that point, everything being true, it's like when people go like, I watched a video today about, again, bringing up Lane and Paul. Lane selling on What the Fitness. Lane Norton, sorry, was talking about Paul selling and going into a children's hospital and complaining about the food. Now, it's a cancer ward, right? And Lane quite rightly said he was disgusted in what Paul did because one, there are healthy options there and he ignored it because it didn't get clicks and it's not his own agenda. Totally fair. The biggest problem in cancer patients is in going through chemotherapy is keeping anything down. So muscle wasting is other than the actual cancer itself is the biggest cause of death. So like let's just get them some calories. Cool. I get that. But on the flip side of this, and I'm not supporting Paul Sardine for that thing, but on the flip side of this, when Lane goes, this is bullshit. Here are the randomized control trials. You are saying that person's life experience, and this, when you say experience, like is invalid. Like you had a big autoimmune. Let's use Michaela Peterson as an example, right? When he says this is bullshit, we have Michaela Peterson who had like 2 hip replacements before she was 17, 18. She had crazy acne, crazy depression. Are you telling me that her experience and her journey is irrelevant?
No.
Like, what a horrible thing to say.
Exactly.
And like, that's like my point in this. It's like, whereas people going so far clickbaity is cruel. Saying someone's past experiences is pointless because science doesn't agree with you in these controlled settings. It's like, piss off.
Yeah.
I'm getting heated on the show, aren't I?
We should do another one just about this.
Absolutely.
Mate, God.
Yeah, we've done tribalism and killing the industry. I'm just 6 years on, older and grumpier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so the frogs are going gay.
The frogs are going gay. The one that scared me the most when I found this out last year, and I think this is causing more issues than we think. Yeah, I'm not trying to fearmonger. And more research is, of course, needed because there has been studies, but they were done on very, very small cohorts. Polyester, especially for fellas. Now, most people are living in gym wear, active wear, especially the girls. Guys, we're guilty of it. I'm wearing Under Armour shorts now, but I'm pretty sure if I looked at the label without just looking at my cock, it's probably 80 to 100% polyester.
I don't know, Jordan. Shallow. I'm not going to call you out live on air because I can't get the label out. But yeah, I want to find out.
T-shirt though, 100% cotton, baby. Come on, we're on that game. We're on that train
as well.
Probably is. But T-shirts, I think, unless it's like Gymshark, Lululemon material, you're probably okay.
It's a bit of
But
plastic on the front, though, Jordan. You should.
so you're going to be inhaling some microplastics. You're probably going to be inhaling threads of cotton anyway.
Yeah.
But in terms of fellas and their testicular health, polyester slings that were attached to a group of men's testicles and worn for 12 months, so mimicking the tightness of pants, boxers, etc. And I don't want to say all of them, but a large percentage was shown to have lowered fertility. I've got it here. I think it's been so fucking slow here. Just poor testicular health that was reversed after removing exposure to polyester around testicles for an extended period of time. So what the polyester was doing was creating an electrostatic field across the structures that need to breathe, which led to disordered thermoregulation, the temperature of your balls. Your balls likes to hang at a certain temperature. That's why in the winter they're up in your stomach and in the summer they're down by your knees, because your body self-regulates its temperature. And then we're causing things that disrupt that temperature, that natural process, which affects the health of your bollocks, the job that they're doing, you know? So when I read that, I was like, whoa, I go commando anyway. I'm getting on the 100% cotton boxers train, but fuck me, they're expensive. So not everyone's going to be able to jump on that. Yeah. So again, it comes down to, well, what do you want to do about this? You may, if you find you are struggling to, now again, I'm not the guy, I'm just not going to fix everyone's issue. But if you are thinking, I really am kind of worried about my fertility, then maybe that's something you look into, having less exposure to polyester around your balls. Obviously focusing on healthy food, time outdoors, sleep, all the other things that still can affect your fertility, probably more than the polyester alone, still have to be taken into account. So it's all very well for me to sit here and go, guys, stop wearing polyester around your balls. Like you're killing your sperm. But that's not going to be the case for every single guy.
Yeah.
So again, what are you can do with it?
Yeah, so we've got things of polyester. We've got, obviously we talk about plastics. So like this could be like plastic water bottles. We've got things that microwaving our food in plastic. What about microwaves in general?
Well, I've never known exactly what is true, right? In terms of just microwaving your food, not microwaving it in plastic, because we're heating the plastic that leaches chemicals, which are leaching anyway. In terms of just microwaving your food, I don't think.
Because I see people,
but this is so difficult to research.
Slow cookers to get rid of microwaves, like tons, and then you get the people like who put certain filters of water on the showers and filter and this is the biggest thing with this, right? Like, it's like it becomes expensive and life taking over, because it's like, are you saying like let's go back to Brian Johnson. He has an air quality meter in his house that he doesn't leave the house if his air quality drops below a certain amount. Now, it's that trade-off between like how much you want to prioritize your health over how much you want to live your life. Because is it scary enough to do this? Like, sorry, I can't go for. I was about to say I can't go for a drink. That's way worse than the air quality. But like, I can't go for a walk today. The air quality is not good enough. You know, like when we start adding in, like, well, okay, we've got plastics. Like for our business, this is plastic. You know, we got to then we filter our water. We got shower filter water caps. We don't buy in plastic. We don't heat in plastic. We got to make sure that our food, like what's sprayed on our foods, there's antibiotics that are put into our meats, right? So we're having to all now buy organic. Like it so quickly becomes this thing. Like I've worked with people that were very this way minded, and I'm like, you might be right, but how much money do I need to have to do your program?
When I first entered the industry, before I even knew Poliquin was, I knew what GVT was, so maybe I'd read Poliquin's GVT. When I first entered the industry, I knew a lot of guys, met a lot of guys that had just started doing Paul Chek stuff. And Paul Chek, very much so, eat from the land, soul's depleted, avoid, like, judging people on his seminars if they've got plastic fucking lunch boxes and stuff with them, and calling them out and shaving them, and talking about microwaves and things like that. And even way back then,
condescending educators.
Yeah, man. And I love Paul Chek. I think he's got some great stuff.
too, but like, you know, there's a few like Paul, and again, love this man too, but like Purvis. Like very much this sort of like, if you don't know this moment arm and force angle, then you shouldn't have the right to other people. I'm like, that's the point where you didn't know this either, mate. Like,
mate, but again, like it's this same stuff. We have access to this information. I learned about Poliquin coming over to the UK and how he would source out. Again, this is from a friend, whether it's true or not. But I respect if this is true, that he would have sourced out where he's going to get his salmon and his eggs from already, because he's not going to go to the fucking shop and buy it and things like that. And fantastic, if that's how far you want to go with stuff, and you have the access and the availability to do so, then why wouldn't you? Why the hell wouldn't you? If I could, oh my God, yeah, I would hook up with the local farm and I would get my fresh, organic, grass-fed, free-range meat that, you know, they, when it's sleeping at night, they play Hans Zimmer soundtracks, and when it's running around the field, they put on 300. Like, that's the meat I want. I want a salmon that's been in a river that's connected to the sea that's in Lord of the Rings. Pure, clean, amazing water, right? But I also love a fucking Ben and Jerry's ice cream that's full of microplastics and dirty shit and seed oils and stuff like that. So what's the balance? Like, I could get in a position where I can do absolutely everything 100% perfectly healthy, but then I miss out on certain things I enjoy, and I could still get hit by a fucking car.
Yes.
So what are you going to do? So it's worthwhile looking at your environment that you're in. I personally love a scented candle because I'm 50% teenage girl. I love a scented candle, but since learning how much fumes these things give off, I've then thought to myself, well, I love the light. That's what I like. I don't really care about the smell. I can have the same experience with different types of candles and not worry about that effect anymore. And I can always make sure if I'm burning a candle, I've got a window slightly open anyway, so there's some fresh air coming in.
Yeah.
Polyester for lower body, I try and avoid it because that means something to me. I'm a little bit more worried about that than other people are. The microplastics are so fucking tricky. It's so tricky. What shops are going to stock glass San Pellegrino that isn't a restaurant? I can go get my favourite drink from.
That isn't going to break the bank. It might not be that much expensive, but you add that up over the time you want to, because you're not drinking the tap water either. You know, so that's going to be your only source. You know, like when we look at this sort of stuff, like we've got sort of like manganese in cans that potentially cause an issue. We've got obviously asbestos and things. We've got things in our sofas and furnitures, right? This is the thing, is pronouncing toxins are really pain in the backside. We've got polybrominated diphenyl ethers, PBDs, right? We've got ethanol that some of those comes in our drinks, leads. We've got arsenic. They're in things that still in more things than we should be should be. We've got mercury that, like, people talk about food. Now mercury is an interesting one because, like, it's less so with food. People are like, should you make sure you get, like, should you have farm fish and things like this? And should we stop having tin tuna? And I know a lot of people with mercury toxicity issues, like tons. So to say that this doesn't happen, to say that toxicity doesn't have an issue, right? Look at every guy in the world now who's got man boobs, and say that's like estrogens in our environment aren't affecting us, right? Before you go, well, science says that this doesn't have an impact on us. Look at the difference in body shape, right? These things are impacting us, but like most of the people I know with big mercury issues, it's fillings. Which don't exist.
Yeah,
anymore,
that was a big thing, wasn't it? They don't do it.
And so we've looked at those sort of things. Like, has anyone had a filling before 2018? Mercury fillings only stopped in 2018.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's not that long ago. Same as toothpaste as well. Toothpastes, all of them came out with like the beads that are meant to clean your teeth even deeper. And then Colgate, I don't know if all of them done this. Colgate, then after the whole microplastic in the bloodstream thing, went, we're not going to do that anymore. People are swallowing microplastics. We don't know if that's good or bad. So let's just like do the smarter thing and stop it because it could be bad.
Yeah.
And then later down the line, maybe they add them back in. Who knows?
And go on.
Go on.
No, I was going to go into I'm going to share my screen here a second because I'm looking at some of the stats when I go into Liver on my coaching confidence syllabus, and we talked about seed oils at the start, right? Are they bad?
Nice.
And I actually got this graph of the rise in seed oils in use in foods, and if you can sort of see this, I don't know how well you can sort of see this graph.
Yeah.
But like how let me actually present this screen for people so they can see it on the full screen. But if we look at this now, like how from like 1909, and look how quickly it's gone up in the last 20 years. So again, as you said, the danger's in the dose here. That's the scary stuff, right? Like, and if I come into like some of these things, like we've got again like metals and rust and things like this, and old stuff, and like dampness in homes. Like we have mold sometimes comes there if I don't sort of clean this thing, and I'm like that's the things that's like just that little bit of cleanliness sometimes, maybe more than we think of, can make a huge impact. So like there's gonna be a bunch of people listening to this, and they're gonna think about, okay, we're gonna start removing some things. But then there are also going to be people who are going to go, well, I need to get on a detox. So, like, what to you when you hear that? Like, what is and what isn't a detox? Because I think detoxification is a thing.
Yes. Yeah.
The marketing word of detox is a very different thing.
It's probably the most bastardized, twisted, manipulated word on the planet, detox. And this is the issue. People will then Google, how do I remove toxins from my home? How do I create a less toxic environment? How do I get rid of microplastics in my body? And someone's going to tell you to take a coffee enema, apple cider vinegar gummies 20 fucking times a day and poop upside down or something like that. It's all a bit mad out there. But as always, the basics work. If you're worried about these things, the first thing to do is limit your exposure. Limit your exposure to plastics. Limit time in the city if you can. If you can't, well, then what you can do, right? Limit your, don't drink from cans. If you're worried about the polyester on your clothing, then have more cotton. Don't buy things with polyester in it. Look at the labels. Same as dieting. If you're worried about this stuff, then just look around your environment first. What do you need to remove before you add in? If you're adding in stuff and the environment's still shit, it's not going to do anything. So what do we need to remove first? What works for you in terms of your money, your environment, the other people in your house who may not have as much of an importance on this stuff as you do? That's the first thing. What can we remove without going fucking stupid? Then it's, okay, now what do I need to add into my environment? And as with every possible physical health endeavor you could possibly chase, the 5 things you should focus on are the highest quality food you can afford. Making sure you're not overeating, so you're storing excessive body fat. That is going to hold on to these microplastics and damage toxin cells way, way more than a healthy individual. Are you getting some form of exercising a handful of times a week where you're sweating? That's the detoxification process, sweating, not fat crying, detoxing. Sleeping, high quality sleep so the right hormones can be produced. And hydration. Hydration. Your body filters its blood multiple times per minute, over and over and over again. If you don't give it the source of what your body is made of, then how can you ever expect anything to change?
But Tim Spector told me on an episode of Diver CEO that water wasn't beneficial and that you shouldn't drink so much of it.
So then the next level would be to discount everything I've said. Take what's the stuff they took at I've forgotten the name now. What they were taking at Chernobyl.
I don't know.
Never mind. It's gone.
Don't know.
What do you take?
You should just put a Zoe mix on your arm.
It's okay. So then you can take iodine. That's it, iodine. So you can take multiple pipettes of iodine every day. Your apple cider vinegar.
Well, it's thyroid.
Don't eat kale, but eat kale. What else you got? Boron. Apples have pectin in it, which are meant to help with radiation poisoning. So just eat apples. Don't drink water because there's water in the apples.
But Stephen Gundry says that apples are really bad for you.
If someone just clicks on this episode and just goes to this bit, we might cause some damage. Robb Mcgeary said, just take iodine. I did. Do you know what I did? Just take iodine and see what happens. I don't care.
Yeah. But another thing we haven't mentioned is like medications, right?
Medications as well. The pill. Oh my God.
Caveat. I'm not saying anyone stop taking the medications. I'm not taking 20-year-old girls who don't want to get pregnant to stop taking the pill. Right? Like we make educated risks. I think there should be more education with young girls. So like, this is the downsides of the pill. That isn't happening. Right? I've known pill just given for bad periods. here you have the pill.
Yeah.
And like there should be, like, if I was going to go on TRT, a doctor would fill me with fear of the downsides of it, right, before he gave it me, right? So why are we not doing the same for the contraceptive pill? And like,
just a quick little caveat on that, which is why, especially with the noise that is around that particular subject of TRT, because certain companies have advertising budgets, it should be a conversation with a doctor. Don't just buy into a subscription service because it's cheap. Carry on.
Yes, no, yeah, very fair point. But like, I know that you know, Elle has to get a liver checked regularly because she takes medicine for OCD, fluoxetine. Now, I would never tell Ellie to just get rid of these medications because of the toxic load. Like the risk of her not taking medication is worse than the reward of getting rid of them. But it's like these things again. It's like how we at the start we're like, how much should you be more concerned with the things that you can control? What if you're sleeping poorly, not training, not active, poor VO2 max, unhealthy, and then you've got tons of medication, you live in a city centre, maybe more. Because if we look at toxic load like that stress cup, we're filling it with stuff before we even start. And I think when it comes to like, what can you do? It's like, well, what is the mechanisms for the most part that these things create a problem? We mentioned oxidative stress in the cells. We mentioned inflammation, right? So could we make sure, again, could we address our omega-3 to omega-6 ratio as quickly as humanly possible? Could we drink a ton of water and have a lot of oily fish and supplement with some fish oil? Can we put some olive oil in our food? Can we minimize processed food? Like, this sort of stuff makes a difference. And it's simple stuff. It ain't a fancy detox.
In terms of inflammation, you're going to get much better response from clearing ginsters and whatever other crap out of your diet than you are from buying a cold plunge and trying to do that every morning when you're not going to do it every single morning. The bigger things, the things that you're doing more of throughout your 24-hour day are, funnily enough, the ones that have the greater impact on your health, not something that you're in for 3 minutes maximum, which again, you're probably not going to do every single day anyway. So again, it always comes down to, it's so boring because it's not the sexy stuff. People want the supplement, the pill, the protocol, the book with a crazy fucking name where they can go, right, that's the one. Like, it's never that. Some of these things could give you a little extra 5%, maybe 10 at a push, depending what you're doing. But it always comes down to the basics. Are you a fit, healthy, active individual that's making smart food choices that still allows a little bit of balance in there? If it works for you, no judgment if you completely cut all the junk out, and a huge amount of respect from me. But that's not valid for everyone. It's not viable for everyone. In terms of the fear mongering that goes on, just take everything with a little pinch of salt, which probably can help with inflammation as well, you know. But the big stat I heard that made me laugh, it didn't scare me, it made me laugh, was we ingest the equivalent of a credit card of microplastics every single week. Now, when you put that into perspective, you're like, holy that's ridiculous. I've got a credit card size amount.
How big are your credit cards?
In my butt.
Credit card size amount.
On that American Express train, buddy, VIP plan. I'm Monzo anyway, so it's all digital. I ain't even got a card. Oh my God, a credit card in my body. That is so easy to visualize and go, oh my God, that's terrifying. But again, break it down into microplastics that probably aren't that visible to the human eye across your entire body, moving as well. They're in the bloodstream. They're not all lodged in an organ. Now, if you're a fit, this is just me talking. If you're a fit, healthy individual, sweating, saunas, movement, etc., maybe you're expunging 2 credit cards a week. I don't know. This is just me it's just a thought experiment. What if we're ingesting a credit card, but it takes 100 credit cards worth of microplastics before anything happens to your health? So, same as the Diet Coke argument. 1 Diet Coke is not going to kill you. 20 Diet Cokes is not going to kill you. If you're drinking like towards 50, I think it was 51 cans a day or something like that, then we're starting to see the negative effects of sweeteners.
That's the thing we said about mercury, right? Like, people get scared because people are in real issues with mercury and go, well, imagine, and obviously this is a metal rather than a credit card, but like, imagine, like, say that using your analogy, like a filling is like 50 credit cards in one go, where a tin of tuna might be half a credit card. Like the two aren't necessarily equal. So it's like, it's an element of do your research and like understand, are you in a particular risk factor for the things we have before you even think about any of this stuff.
Yeah. Figure out what's important to you. What do you want to focus on that's not going to completely overhaul your life? And what can you, again, like you can do all the stuff at home. You can get all the right plants in. You can have the windows open. You can get rid of all the Febrezes and the scented candles and stuff like that. But if you work in London 5 days a week, from 8 in the morning, so you're commuting at 7, and you leave the office at 6, you're commuting till 7 again on the tube in the middle of central London. Like, what you've done in your home is now the minority to how you're spending your entire day. So it's cool that I like 100% still do that stuff if it matters to you. But it's just being a realist, right? We are in this unfortunate environment that we have fucked things up, right? The seed oil argument is more important for me because of what's happening to the Amazon. That's the shit I can't stand, rather than what inflammation it may be doing to my body or not. The microplastics in my body, we've got plastic size, what do you even call it? Island, the size of Texas floating in the Pacific, whatever the hell it was called. Like, that's so fucking bad. That's so wrong. So there, and again, I'm not going to start wearing the orange t-shirt and blocking traffic, but it's still worth looking at. Okay, what are we doing to the community as a whole? But you can't fix a community until you fix yourself first. So it always starts at home first. Your body, your internal environment, you have more control over than the external environment that may or not be damaged. I don't know. We'll find out in 100 years if climate change is real and microplastics are killing us.
I think that's our mic drop moment. I don't have a microphone. I have this little cover for a road mic that I'm now going to drop. I think that works as our closing statement. So, for people that want to, because you've done a few reels on this to absolutely get more likes and shares on Instagram.
100% clickbait. 100%, bruv. And I'm only just getting started. I've not even done the polyester one yet. It's coming this week.
So where are people finding these?
So find me on Fat Loss Fastlane, where my Instagram reach has plummeted worse than my crypto portfolio in 2019.
You and me both. I haven't got a crypto portfolio, but my reach is terrible.
Trust me, you don't want one. It's one of those apps, you know, when the apps offload after a little while when you ain't used it. That's all my crypto apps now. I could be a millionaire, probably not, but I'm not going to open them to look.
Yeah.
The Fat Loss Fastlane on Instagram is where I'll be the most active for sure. And that's where I talk about this stuff a little bit more. With the gym, I have to keep it more relevant to the gym, a little bit more professional. But on Fat Loss Fastlane, I can say what the fuck I want. I've got 2 strikes. I still ain't got the third. Maybe if I do another post about Alex Jones.
Yeah, just walk on the tightrope. Maybe stop with the frogs are gay. Maybe stop with a clip of the frogs are gay.
The frogs are gay.
And then do so we'll see where it goes. Mate, pleasure as always, man. Again, if you've liked this and you got this far, please give us a like, a share to someone you think would like the show, and a subscribe. We really like this to be able to get more people on and to have more conversation like this. But mate, catch you soon.
Good hustle.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Made Podcast. If you're like me and like binge watching podcast episodes, click here to watch our latest episode. Or if you want to stay in touch and find out when the next episode goes live, click here to subscribe to the channel.